You ever been in that situation where you're chasing a woman, texting her first, trying to keep her attention, doing everything right, and yet she drifts away? You say the compliments. You stay consistent. You're nice. But somehow, she still loses interest. Meanwhile, the guy who barely tries, he's the one she ends up thinking about. Why? Because attraction is psychological, not logical. What makes a woman chase a man isn't about being perfect. It's about triggering something deeper, something primal, something emotional, and that's exactly what we're going to get into. Today, I'll show you 9 psychological hacks that flip the script so she's the one obsessing over you. And we'll start with the first 2 that set the tone. The first psychological trigger is what I call the mirror frame. This is not about copying her. It's about reflecting back the emotions she projects, but in a controlled, masculine way. When a woman interacts with a man, especially one she's curious about, she subconsciously tests whether he's in his frame or hers. Most guys fail this instantly. They try to match her mood, follow her lead, laugh too easily, agree too quickly. That signals weakness. That signals she's in control. And if she feels she's in control too early, she loses the thrill. Women don't chase men they can predict. They chase men they can't quite read. So instead of being reactive, become the mirror but with leadership. When she's playful, you stay grounded but engaged. When she's cold, you lean back and smile. You become the one that calibrates the vibe, not the one who's trapped in it. Why does this work? Because it activates her emotional brain. It makes her ask herself, what is he thinking? Instead of assuming she already knows. Neil Strauss called this dynamic emotional pacing. In the game, you control the pace and she subconsciously adjusts. It's psychological warfare through calm presence. Let's go deeper. The second hack is called strategic withdrawal. This isn't the same as playing hard to get. It's not about disappearing for 3 days to look cool, that's amateur. Strategic withdrawal is about creating micro-absences at key emotional peaks. Let me explain. Most men, when a woman starts showing interest, increase attention. They text more, compliment more, initiate more. But what happens psychologically? Her brain adapts. She predicts your behavior. And when something becomes predictable, it loses value. Think about it. Dopamine, the chemical of pursuit, is triggered by uncertainty, not consistency. So here's what the high-value man does. He leans in just enough to spark emotional tension, then pulls back right before the peak. For example, you're on a date, the chemistry is flowing, she's laughing, leaning in, touching your arm. Right then, you pause, check your watch, stand up, say you have to be somewhere in 20 minutes. That moment, where she expected more, you left her with craving. That's how you become addictive. You give her emotional highs, and then take them away in brief, controlled doses. This isn't manipulation. This is polarity. It's the same psychology that makes gambling addictive. It's the unpredictability of reward. As Robert Greene explains in The Art of Seduction, withdrawal creates the vacuum that pulls her in. She starts chasing not just you, but the next emotional hit you represent. And you better believe most guys will never do this. They're too afraid of losing her if they step back. But here's the truth. If you never create space, you never give her the opportunity to miss you. And women only chase what they feel slipping away. There's a moment every high-value man learns to recognize, a psychological tipping point. It's the second she starts wondering if she likes you more than you like her. And if you handle that moment right, it becomes the beginning of obsession. That's why the third hack is what I call emotional misdirection. Here's how it works. Most men try to build attraction by giving the woman full emotional clarity. They spell out their intentions, they validate, they express. But mystery, not clarity, is what pulls women in. So instead of giving her a roadmap to your mind, you give her a maze. Let's say she asks, "What are you looking for in a woman?" Most guys answer with a direct list. You don't. You say something like, "You know, I used to think I knew, but lately I've realized it's not just about traits, it's about how someone makes me feel when I'm not expecting anything." Boom. You didn't give her a checklist to qualify for. You gave her a puzzle. Now she's wondering, what does that mean? Do I make him feel that way? Am I enough? And just like that, you've implanted a thought loop. This is powerful because the female brain is wired to resolve emotional ambiguity. When you speak with layered meaning, when your body language is calm but your words are open-ended. You activate her curiosity on a deep psychological level, and curiosity is the gateway to emotional investment. This is the same principle that great seducers throughout history mastered. Casanova didn't chase, he enchanted. He created an emotional fog where women leaned forward to make sense of what he wasn't saying. And the more they leaned in, the deeper they fell. Now let's shift to something even more subtle, but just as potent. The fourth psychological hack is the glimpse of detachment. This is the rare moment where she sees that, even though you're attracted, even though you're engaged, you're not emotionally dependent. And this is one of the most confusing, magnetic things a woman can experience. Let me explain. In the beginning, women naturally assume you're like every other guy, that once you're attracted, you'll act accordingly, pursue her, seek her validation, move toward commitment. But when she senses that your attention is not rooted in neediness, but in preference, something shifts. You're no longer acting like a man trying to win her. You're acting like a man who already has options and simply chooses her for now. You might be out with her and you receive a text. You glance at it and calmly put the phone away without reacting. Or maybe you cut the night short without explanation, not to punish, not to be rude, but because your world doesn't revolve around her. That moment, subtle as it is, creates a rupture in her assumption. She starts to feel that your presence is voluntary, not driven by desperation. And this, brother, is pure psychological power. Because once a woman senses that you could walk away at any moment without emotional collapse, she subconsciously places a higher value on your time, your attention, your approval. It's classic loss aversion. Behavioral economists have shown that humans are more motivated by the fear of losing something than by the pleasure of gaining it. When she realizes your presence is not guaranteed, she starts chasing to secure it. This glimpse of detachment doesn't require arrogance. In fact, the more calm and respectful you are while showing it, the more powerful it becomes. Because it's not about hurting her ego, it's about communicating without words that you are the prize. There's something most men will never realize about attraction. It's not always about what you do. It's about what you provoke. And one of the most powerful ways to provoke attraction is through what I call micro-contradictions. This is the fifth psychological hack, and it's something natural seducers do without even realizing it. A micro-contradiction is when your energy, your words, and your behavior subtly clash in a way that makes her mentally tilt her head, trying to figure you out. Think about it. When you tell her with absolute calmness that you don't like drama, but then your eye contact is so intense it feels like a challenge, or when you say you're just enjoying the moment, but your silence makes her feel something deeper is going on. You're creating tension. You're making her second-guess the narrative. Why does this work so well? Because tension, when it's emotional and unresolved, is addictive. It pulls the mind in. A woman will chase a man who presents a contradiction she feels compelled to understand. It's the same effect as when you're watching a thriller, and a character says something subtle that doesn't match what they just did. You keep watching. You keep analyzing. She does the same with you. This is what Neil Strauss hinted at when he talked about peacocking in the game. But most men misunderstood it. It's not about wearing flashy clothes or being outrageous. It's about doing just enough to disrupt her expectations. To make her think, who is this guy really? You want her wondering that in every interaction. Because when a woman is trying to figure you out, she's already invested. Now, let's take that even further. Hack number 6 is what I call the third-party spark. It's the psychological phenomenon where her desire for you intensifies, not from what happens between you two, but from what she perceives happening around you. Here's how it works. You're at a bar, talking to her. You're charming, centered, confident, but you're not overly focused on her. Then another woman walks past, smiles at you, maybe touches your arm casually, or gives you that look. Suddenly, the woman you're with feels it. The silent competition, the implicit status shift. That one glance from another female flips a switch in her mind. And now, you're valuable. This isn't about making her jealous in a childish way. This is about social proof. Every human brain, especially the female brain, is wired to respond to social cues, especially when it comes to mating behavior. If other women see value in you, her subconscious automatically raises your perceived worth. Robert Cialdini called this the principle of social validation in his book Influence, but it's even stronger in romantic dynamics. Why? Because women are tribal. They seek cues from other women to assess safety, desirability, and rank. So when she sees that other women respond positively to you, even in subtle ways, it activates her competitive wiring. She starts thinking, what do they see in him that I haven't fully noticed yet? You can amplify this without manipulation. Mention casually that someone flirted with you earlier that day, or let her witness other women laugh at your jokes while you stay centered and unreactive. You're not trying to boast, you're letting her draw conclusions, and that's the key. She must feel like she's discovering your value on her own. That's when the chasing begins, because now it's not just about liking you, it's about not wanting to lose to the other women who've already noticed you. This dynamic shifts everything. Instead of being the man trying to prove he's good enough, you become the man who's already in demand. And that's a psychological position most men never even reach, because they're too busy proving instead of being observed. There's something women never admit out loud, but it drives their attraction on a level they often don't understand themselves. It's the idea of emotional imprinting. That's where the seventh hack comes in: create moments she replays alone. Let me break it down. Most men go on a date and think the goal is to be fun, flirty, and likable. That's surface level. But what actually makes a woman chase you is when she finds herself replaying something you said, something you did, or something she felt when you were together, long after you've gone. This isn't about being intense or romantic. It's about crafting a moment that leaves a mark. For example, you're walking side by side, and suddenly you stop. Look at her with depth. Not a smile, not flirtation, just pure stillness. You hold eye contact, lean in slightly, and say something like, I don't know what it is about tonight, but you're giving me that dangerous feeling, like something might shift if I stay too long. And then you pull away and keep walking like nothing happened. That's not a line, that's a trigger. Because now she's not just thinking about you, she's thinking about what she felt in that moment. And that's what women chase: the emotion, the vibe, the uniqueness of that exchange that no other guy would have given her. You see, female memory is emotionally coded. She won't remember your exact words, but she will remember the feeling. And the more mysterious and rare it felt, the more she'll seek it again. Casanova mastered this. He didn't seduce with routines. He seduced with moments. The way he looked at a woman's lips before kissing her. The silence before a confession. The tension before departure. These fragments of emotional intensity are what made him unforgettable. Now let's go deeper. Hack number 8 is emotional contrast. This is one of the most underused and misunderstood forces of attraction. Most guys stay in one emotional frequency when interacting with women. They're either always fun, always serious, always flirtatious. But the male that triggers pursuit is the one who creates emotional shifts. Let me explain. When you give a woman a mix of emotional flavors, playfulness followed by sudden stillness, laughter followed by a meaningful pause, teasing followed by deep eye contact, you're triggering her limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. And this is where long-term imprinting happens. A man who can shift the emotional tone of the interaction without losing frame is perceived as dangerous in the best way. You're showing her that you're not limited to one dimension. You're not the funny guy, you're not the sweet guy, you're not the mysterious guy. You're all of them, but only when you choose to be. And here's where the psychology really kicks in. When a woman experiences high contrast in an emotional interaction, it causes memory spikes. Scientists call this the peak-end rule. We remember emotional peaks and how things ended, not the full story. So if you gave her a high-energy laugh, then suddenly dropped into a quiet moment where you looked at her differently, almost as if you were seeing her for the first time, and then left shortly after, that contrast burns into her mind. She won't be able to stop thinking about you. Not because you said the perfect things, but because you made her feel alive. You gave her a cinematic emotional experience. And women don't forget the men who give them emotional range. They chase them. They dream about them. They crave more of them. Most men think attraction ends when the conversation ends. But the truth is, the real chase begins when you're no longer in front of her. And that's why the 9th and final psychological hack is the silent anchor. This isn't something you say, it's not a trick or a gesture. It's a psychological imprint you leave behind that follows her into her thoughts, her dreams, her next relationship. You see, attraction isn't about the loud moments. It's about the moments that echo in silence. The moments where your presence lingers, even when you're gone. The silent anchor is the emotional weight you plant in her subconscious that keeps pulling her back to you. It can be an inside joke that only you two understood. A way you held her gaze a little longer than expected. A comment that hinted at something deeper, something unspoken. It's the moment where she's scrolling through her phone and sees a meme that reminds her of something you said. It's when she walks into a cafe and smells the same cologne you wore. It's when she's with another guy and suddenly realizes he doesn't challenge her the way you did. These moments seem random to her, but they're not. They're the result of your presence being anchored in her nervous system. Here's how you do it. Throughout your interactions, subtly embed emotional cues tied to sensory triggers. Maybe you always trace your finger along her wrist when making a joke. Maybe you speak slower and lower right before you leave. Maybe you always smell like sandalwood or leather. These aren't obvious moves. They're subconscious hooks. And over time, they start to connect you with emotion, memory, sensation. That's when chasing kicks in. Because once a woman feels your presence, even in your absence, she starts associating you with her own internal emotional world. And that's the deepest level of attraction there is. She's no longer chasing a man. She's chasing a feeling, a version of herself that only exists when you're around. This is what separates a forgettable guy from the man she can't stop thinking about. You're not trying to impress her. You're becoming an experience she can't replicate. And once a woman connects desire to identity, she'll chase you with a hunger she doesn't fully understand. Now listen, if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't surface-level dating advice. This is seduction rooted in psychology, emotion, and presence. It's not about fake tactics or cheesy lines. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally triggers pursuit, because you move with intention, you speak with depth, and you carry yourself like your time, your energy, and your presence are sacred. And if this resonated with you, if you felt a shift in how you view the game, then I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these psychological triggers spoke to you the most. Or better yet, share your own experience. Maybe there's a moment where you pulled back and she came running. Maybe you said something that stayed in her head for weeks. I read everything, and your story might be the next one that inspires a new video. And if you want more content like this, more real, unapologetic, powerful truths about male psychology, seduction, and the art of becoming unforgettable, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. We're just getting started, brother. The game changes when you stop chasing and start becoming.